Yes, there is some relief this morning that this state escaped yesterday's catastrophic fire conditions without any loss of life or serious damage as fires swept right from the north coast of New South Wales to the edges of Sydney. Fire crews worked throughout the evening, late into the night, early this morning to protect communities in paths of the most dangerous fires as that southerly wind change swept up the coast. In the last hour, the final emergency warning in the Clarence Valley has been downgraded to watch and act. But the news isn't all good. 21 people have been injured, including 13 firefighters, and up to 50 homes have been damaged or destroyed. More than 80 blazes are still burning right across New South Wales. The Rural Fire Service Commissioner Shane Fitzsimmons gave this update a short time ago.
Just as a result of yesterday's fire spread and fire activity, we could be seeing in the order of another 50 homes damaged or destroyed as a result of those fires spreading across the landscape yesterday. It's going to be a long effort yet, many days, many weeks, indeed many months if we don't get rain before we properly bring these fires under control, establish consolidation and declare them safe.
Shane Fitzsimmons there, so let's get the very latest now. We're joined from the Rural Fire Service headquarters as well, Richard Davies. Up in Brisbane, Caitlin Gribben is at the Queensland Fire and Emergency Service headquarters, and in the North Shore suburb of Turramurra that had its own mini crisis late yesterday, Lara Himes is there. Let's go back to you, Richard Davies, at the RFS headquarters. So we had a pretty strong and decisive update from Shane Fitzsimmons about where things stood this morning. Where do things stand?
Well, Michael, as you saw, there's a great sense of relief here at the RFS that the conditions have eased considerably this morning, and we heard from the Commissioner earlier about how there was a lot of concern about some of those emergency fires, but there are now actually no emergency warnings in place. Only in the last 10 minutes or so, they have all been downgraded to watch and act. Now, just to give you an idea, yesterday at the height of the crisis, there were 19 emergency warnings. So now to have none and the conditions to be easing, it means that firefighters can now get on with the job of putting out all those fires that are still burning around New South Wales. There are more than 80 fires still going, and about 60 or so of those are still uncontained. I think you mentioned that there were 21 people injured, including 13 firefighters. Thankfully, none of those injuries were serious, and only a handful were taken to hospital for minor treatment as well. But the biggest news is that no one is unaccounted for. In those catastrophic conditions, to have no loss of life is just an amazing outcome for the RFS and for the whole community, for all that planning that went ahead. Unfortunately, there was some suspicious fire activity that the Commissioner did mention, saying that 4 people have actually been charged with breaching that total fire ban that was put in place right across the state, including one minor who was given a caution. And while the conditions have eased, the hard work is still ahead, because 1.1 million hectares of land has been burnt, and those fires are still going, and so there's still a lot of containment work to be done, mopping up. That's over 1,000 kilometres of fire perimeter in just one fire alone in some of those places. So a lot of work to go ahead, but certainly a sense of relief and a lot of planning ahead for the next fire danger, because in the next couple of days the temperatures are going to rise and the conditions out there are still very bone dry. So it's still a case of watch and act and really plan ahead.
It is indeed. So let's swing up north now and bring in Caitlin Gribben at the Queensland Fire and Emergency Service headquarters. Caitlin, what's the latest on the Queensland fires this morning?
Michael, with 61 fires still burning here in Queensland, authorities say this is the worst day this week. This is the day that fireys are very concerned about here in Queensland. Some are saying it will be the blackest day since Binnaburra. Now, that's Binnaburra Lodge in the Gold Coast hinterland that you'll remember burnt down in September. It is going to be very difficult, extremely difficult, in fact, weather conditions here in Queensland, Michael. It will be hot, it will be very windy. windy, and those winds are going to rapidly change throughout mid-morning and then into the afternoon. So we're talking about a big area here in Queensland. We're talking about the Darling Downs, Granite Belt, the Wide Bay, Burnett and South East Coast districts that are all facing this fire danger. Those areas, some of those areas at least, could see temperatures 6 to 8 degrees above average. And there are two fires in particular that fire crews are particularly concerned about this morning in the Scenic Rim, inland of the Gold Coast and Brisbane, and also nearby in the Spices Peak area. Now, in that part of Queensland, that's sort of, for people familiar, that's near Cunningham's Gap, so just sort of west of the Great Dividing Range. There's a 5-star resort there called Spices Peak Lodge. We're told that all of the guests and staff have been evacuated from there. And to give you an idea, Michael, of just how difficult these conditions are, the reason firefighters have been so keen to get people out of there is there's one small, very narrow road, I know it quite well, all the way up sort of the side of a mountain. In parts it's only dirt, so you can understand why they were quite keen to get people out of that area in particular as the fire approaches that lodge.
Okay, and of course we'll have extensive coverage of that tricky day, as you say, unfolding there in Queensland over the course of the day. Let's take you now to the leafy North Shore suburb in Sydney, Turramurra, where Lara Himes residents are breathing a huge sigh of relief after bushfires licked at the edges of some houses there yesterday.
That's right, Michael. Got very close to houses. There is just across this road dense bushland, and just behind me one of the streets which was really in line for that fire to cross the road. As we've spoken about this morning, many of the houses, all along the tops of them and also the facades, some of the driveways and vehicles are covered in this pink dust, and that was because of the pink retardant that was released by that water aerial aircraft that went across yesterday and really saving the day from a potential disaster. That aircraft was actually at another nearby fire at the time, but RFS realised the intensity and the severity of this fire that they redeployed that to come and get into action around here. I've spoken to some of the residents this morning. They say as well that even though that they are ready, bushfire ready for the summer months ahead, they perhaps have changed their psyche, their approach in terms of when they're going to execute the plan to leave. Because this bushfire came along so suddenly yesterday, many of them were not prepared with possessions and valuables to move on. Many people got door knocked yesterday, being asked by police to evacuate their properties. But after that water bomber came through, many of them realised and saw how quickly that was able to extinguish or really bring under control that fire and breathe in a collective sigh of relief for these residents.